Red Bull are pinning all of their hopes to bounce back in a massive upgrade package in Austin, as Horner described it as a natural track on which they could bring parts they believe will further boost the competitiveness of Verstappen's RB20. With the Constructors' Championship more or less a lost cause, Red Bull's hopes have now been pinned on the Drivers' category, where they have a sizable 52-point lead to Norris. But given the fact that the momentum is vastly on the Brit side, who's won 2 of the last 4 races, is this upgrade package what Red Bull needs? And if not, can they withhold the pressure of the Papaya team, who have 2 extremely competitive drivers compared to themselves? It's safe to say that Austin will answer tons of questions when it comes to the performance of the teams for the remainder of 2024, because the majority of them will bring upgrades that will determine whether we should expect more or less for the last 6 races. However, Austin will be a sprint race weekend, which is always difficult to comprehend and bring upgrades to, because you have only 1 hour to test the car's new parts and bring the car to the optimal setup ahead of the weekend. Now, the pressure is up to Red Bull, because there isn't a silver bullet in which they could find the performance lost from Imola onwards to McLaren and occasionally Ferrari, because it's not a secret that Verstappen has been competing in what seemed to be the 4th fastest car on the grid on many occasions. And Horner believes that what they have ready for Austin will definitely help them in the goal of defending the championship and scoring the 4th consecutive title for the Dutchman. Obviously, a lot will be put in the front wing and the flexibility of certain parts, as the Brit has already warned that if the FIA doesn't do anything about this part with McLaren and Mercedes, they will follow suit and will definitely push towards this direction with their own front wings. But apart from that, Red Bull is seemingly pushing towards bringing a new floor, but the fact that they have to test it in a very old wind tunnel, as well as being limited with the time they have to spend due to the sporting penalty of breaching the budget cap back in 2021, is hindering their progress to the extent that they would want to see it. Talking about the upgrades in Austin, Horner said, "Well, I think for all of the teams, it's a natural point in time in the year that all teams will bring something to Austin. We're hearing Ferrari has something sizable. I think Mercedes, McLaren, they will all be bringing something. Now, I think what we're looking to do is build on the understanding we've started to really get a clear picture on since Monza, and take a car there that is well balanced between both of its axles." Furthermore, it seems like Red Bull will have a further boost from the fact that the track has been completely resurfaced and not just parts of it like back in 2021. And given the fact that the bumps shouldn't be as present as before, when Verstappen commented that the current layout of the circuit is more suiting for a rally car and not F1 machinery, we should be expecting a stronger performing RB20 in the very least. The thing is that the other teams won't be sitting still, and considering how far ahead McLaren were on circuits like Zandvoort and Singapore, it is difficult to expect that Red Bull can catch them up in one upgrade package. But if there is one team and one driver who can make the difference in such a tiny interval, it's definitely Red Bull. The challenge of this weekend having a sprint event has also been emphasised by Horner, who went on to say, "The first sector is full of high-speed corners, and the circuit now has resurfaced parts, so that is another variable thrown in. It's a sprint weekend, so you've got to hit the ground running. You've got to take into account all of these elements. The whole team has been working incredibly hard in understanding the issues of the car, addressing them, and getting remedies for Austin." But the issue has been emphasised by Verstappen as well. The modern era cars do not respond extremely well to upgrades, and that means it will be very difficult to find what they're looking for, because even McLaren has a brand new floor that they are holding back onto because they are not 100% sure it will bring the performance they've seen in the simulator. Not to mention that McLaren has the most amount of time to spend in the wind tunnel because of the fact they finished 4th in the Constructors' Championship last year, while Red Bull finished 1st. Which literally means they are suffering from their own success, as mentioned earlier this year by Horner. Max Verstappen has gone on to speak about the balance of the car being the primary issue that the team has to deal with, and although the three-time world champion stated that the team is now feeling a lot happier with the car after Baku, he was given a fierce warning from Helmut Marko that the car's operating window needs to be widened in order for the Dutchman to feel a lot more comfortable in it. Elaborating on this, Marko said there has to be more speed and the car has to function in a wider working window. The slightest deviation from this operating window has caused these fluctuations in performance, and the balance in the car was not there. I assume that the upgrades will work. The first changes had a positive effect in Singapore and they were the first step. We have to win again on our own. We have to give Verstappen a car in which he can show off his abilities. He can drive a car to the extreme limit. He can't use a car that understeers. What bothered him the most was that the car oscillated between understeering and oversteering and was unpredictable for him. If we can rebalance the RB20, Max will be driving in his own class again. Then again, it would be crucial for the upgrades in Austin to work, because if they don't, Red Bull will find themselves in a very difficult situation. After the American GP, we are headed into 2 more races in Brazil and Mexico, and then after a 1-week break, we are headed for another triple header to seal off the 2024 season, which means that the Austrian team will have 0 to no chances of doing anything to improve their car if they are not satisfied with the upgrades that are coming in the circuit of the Americas. And this will have huge implications on Verstappen's future, who was voiced by Helmut Marko, the veteran Austrian, saying that if the car is unable to win races, then we could be looking at a scenario in which Max would want to leave the team sooner rather than later. These concerns should definitely worry Red Bull, because whether we like it or not, the downfall is real and it can be seen from miles away. Having 3 senior engineers depart in the matter of a couple of months and then seeing your car not win a race in 8 consecutive races while winning the first 5 of the season is definitely not the sight you'd want to have in front of you if you were to keep Verstappen from 2025 onwards. But the good news for Red Bull is that Verstappen, although believing that McLaren are still far ahead of them, is very positive in terms of the worst being behind Red Bull, as they have more positive things to look forward to ahead of the Austin GP. When addressing the latest upgrades, as well as the problems with the correlation, the 3-time world champion said, "The upgrade packages seem trickier than everyone thinks. At the moment, even McLaren is holding back a new floor, which they are not fully sure about. It's a lot more sensitive with upgrades than under previous regulations, but our car felt better since Baku. That was already a good setup. I do think we are moving in the right direction now, but it will take some time. You can't turn something like this around in 1 or 2 weeks, but I do think the team was happy with what they saw in Baku as well. Right now, I think the worst is behind us, and hopefully we can continue to make good steps from here." With all this in mind, do you think that there is light at the end of the tunnel for Red Bull and Verstappen ahead of the Austrian GP? And do you think that the Austrian team has what it takes to defend the championship against Norris and McLaren? Let us know in the comments below.